Fly over to Rome, Italy, and we're bringing in Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and 2012 Republican presidential candidate. He's a Fox News contributor, and he's author of the new Washington thriller, Vengeance. Newt, what are you doing in Rome?
We're doing very, very well, and this is the first time we've tried doing this transatlantic stuff, so I'm delighted to have a chance to be with you.
So for folks at home that don't know why you're in Rome, your wife is the ambassador to the Vatican.
She is, and I'm very proud of her, and I think she's working very, very hard to represent the United States and to be the president's personal representative. She's had very good reception from the Vatican in her first 10 days, and frankly, as a history teacher, it's pretty exciting to me to have a chance to watch how it all works and to be in an institution that's 2,100 years old and watch how they operate. They've been doing this diplomacy stuff a long time. But they have said, and I noticed that Secretary of State Pellerin, who is the #2 person in the Vatican, met with Vice President Pence yesterday, and they had a very, very positive meeting.
Good. Well, that's good news.
All right, let's talk about what's happening over here. And you know this whole thing going on with Roy Moore in Alabama and his candidacy. And a lot of people are saying, if we're going to condemn Roy Moore, how come you weren't condemning Bill Clinton? And a lot of people saying, instead of attacking the accuser, you should go out and attack. You should be handling it the way the Republicans are handling it now, and that is pretty much divorcing themselves from Roy Moore. Is this a revisit of the 1990s when it comes to the Clintons?
Well, I don't know. Look, I think that Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina, was the smartest person all weekend, the wisest person all weekend. And Senator Scott said, look, this is ultimately about the people of Alabama. There's a conversation going on down there. They're looking at the evidence. They're listening to the arguments. They're going to make a decision. That's how our system is supposed to work. The people of Alabama get to pick who they want to have as the U.S. senator. And the rest of us ought to be a little bit patient and let this play out for a while and see what happens. But I think all the Washington folks, whether the politicians or the news media, who are in a moment of, frankly, almost hysteria, just calm down. This is a serious issue, and I certainly think that Judge Moore is going to have to convince the people of Alabama that he's right and these other people are wrong. Conversely, I think if the evidence mounts up, he'll get defeated. But that's really up to the people of Alabama. It's not up to a bunch of politicians in Washington.
All right. He could get replaced by the governor. You know, they could try to delay it. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle.
Well, there are. And look, I think that this is also part of an ongoing problem for the country at large, both in the sense of the turmoil in the two parties. I mean, you know, people focus on the Republicans, who certainly with this particular story seem to have turmoil. But if you look at Donna Brazil's new book and you look at her allegations about the Clinton campaign and about Hillary Clinton, it strikes me the Democrats have fully as many problems. And I think both parties are in a period of transition when it's not clear how they're going to, either one of them is going to come out. The one person who I think is above all this is President Trump, who I thought had a remarkably successful trip to Asia and did very, very well representing the United States and is coming home, I think, strengthened as somebody capable of leading for the United States and the world.
Right. Newt, let's talk a little bit about our lead story. Attorney General Jeff Sessions not ruling out a special counsel to look into a number of Clinton scandals. What do you think? There have been a number of congressional Republicans who have made these referrals to the Department of Justice. This clearly, Republicans feel, is a step in the right direction, but do you have confidence in Jeff Sessions?
Well, I think we'll have to wait and see what Attorney General Sessions decides. I think he'll make an honest decision based on his reading of the law. I think he has, as a person of deep integrity, who has a background, frankly, in the Justice Department, where he served as a career person at one time. I wrote my newsletter at Gingrich Productions last Friday on Hillary Clinton and cattle futures because I'm old enough, I was around long enough, I remember in 1979 when Bill Clinton was a brand new governor and she was given insider trading information, turned $1,000 into a $100,000 profit, something which two economists studied later and said was more than $1 trillion to 1 shot against being able to do that. So I think she's had a 40-year history of breaking the law, enriching herself and lying about it. And I think that the Clinton Foundation is part of that. The Uranium One deal is part of that. I think, frankly, we owe the American people, I don't want to particularly see her taken to trial, but we certainly owe the American people the truth, and we ought to learn all the details about where the money came from, when it got there, how did it relate to decisions she was making as Secretary of State. This is a pretty deep pool of corruption, and it needs to be exposed so that the country understands we're not going to tolerate that kind of behavior in our public officials.
Well, let's see what happens at the Department of Justice. All right.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us.